And now we're going to move to item 15.2, very important item that we have on the agenda. And it's a little past time, but I think we should move forward with this item since I know we have speakers who have come specifically to this item. So, Mr. Robinson.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, members of the board. Before you this now early afternoon is a resolution to adopt a permissive or to grant a program that would provide permission for individuals sleeping in vehicles along Lapis Road. There's a lot of detail in terms of which penal codes that it's looking at, specifically 602 and 647E, which generally prohibit lodging and trespassing on public property without permission of the owner. So the resolution would establish a process for the county to give permission to vehicle occupants who agree to comply with basically all other laws, including proper vehicle registration, no littering or dumping, not blocking or interfering with the free passage of vehicles along the road. Also, the resolution discusses the process for which the Department of Social Services will implement the program. And under that process, it's also proposed that the department would include along the agreement to provide permission that vehicle occupants would register with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers Coordinated Assessment and Referral System, and would also utilize the safe parking program when it becomes available and provide contact information. So if you adopt the resolution, what it does is it authorizes the department to move forward with a program to allow permission to park along Lapis Road. We would do that in partnership and assistance with the Sheriff's Office, the Health Department, Resource Management, and the County Counsel. And with that, since it's late and I know there's public comment, I will leave it open for questions and public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. And let's see, I think I will start with Supervisor Phillips. Any questions at this point?
Good.
How is this going to be enforced?
Well, the idea would be that we would provide permission for people to park. And I actually didn't mention one important part of it, is that it would be nighttime parking. So it would be parking from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. So we would contract with the provider. We've been in discussions with someone who has capacity to do that, who would actually have a presence, probably not the whole time on during the day, but have a presence on the day to drive by to see are people actually parked there during the day, and is there nothing.
And how do you pick, I can understand 6 p.m., but how do you pick 10 a.m. Instead of 8 a.m.?
Well, typically the early morning weekdays, so with the safe parking program that we're working on, that would have a very early morning weekday, probably in the 7 a.m. range, because they're using a parking lot where people, where employees need to have access. In this case, it really was looking at a time that was in the morning, but not so early in the morning that it would be disruptive, that it would allow the vehicle owners to actually relocate.
Out of the whole county, we're saying we're not going to enforce the law or regulations on this particular piece of property just because that's where people have accumulated, right?
Essentially, although I would say it's not that we're not enforcing the law, it's that we're providing permission to park along that portion of the roadway overnight.
Have we looked at another place? I mean, I tend to agree with Mayor Delgado's thing that this isn't an appropriate place for a camp. And it seems to me that if we're going to say, okay, we're going to move these people out, and we knew this was coming up, that we were going to move them out, have we looked at some place in the county, on Fort Ord or someplace, where we have a parking lot or we just have a field where we say, okay, you people can park here instead of Lapis Road where there's not linked, where you can bring in 6 porta potties for $600 a piece. You can bring in a dumpster, you can bring in some water and say, this is the place where you can go, and you sign a liability when you come in and you leave like you're going to, but where it's more appropriate in some place like Lapis Road, which frankly I went by again on Saturday, and it's a real mess, and trying to enforce it there is a real mess. So have we looked at any place in the county where we could take and say this is a place where you can pull your campers in at night for a place to stay?
So some months back, we worked with the resource management agency to identify alternative locations for a parking program. The most viable option that came up with was actually volunteered by Supervisor Parker's office, and that's the parking lot in front of the District 4 Postal Office and the Social Services and Adult Services Arena. So we've issued a request for quotations to find a safe parking program operator. We certainly would be very concerned about security, restrooms, and being sure that that parking lot was cleared out for employee use during the day. So we did receive one proposal from that RFQ, and we are working with the provider. And when we have a contract that's solid enough and a program that's solid enough, we will return to your board. Again, with so many of the homeless issues that are coming up over the past several months, we will also be returning to your board for appropriation. It's not something that the resources don't exist within the Department of Social Services' existing budget, but we understand the urgency, the challenge, and the importance of providing individuals with places to sleep to negative the housing crisis.
Thank you, Supervisor Phillips. Supervisor Leo, any questions at this point?
Yes. Well, first of all, I wanted to commend Supervisor Parker for really stepping up, not only holding meetings on this issue last night and meetings before, but when the whole conversation about the county being more proactive or leading in terms of trying to create like a safety net of basic services for a homeless population in Monterey County. Yes, Judge Phillips and I have been working on trying to find a location in Salinas, but on the Marina side, which is often, I've heard from several residents, what is the peninsula doing? Well, Supervisor Parker has been very proactive in trying to find a location suitable for a safe park program. And like any new program, it takes several months to find the right provider, kind of lay out, this is the first time a safe park program will even take place. So, you know, I believe in enforcement of the law, but it also has to be compassionate. It has to demonstrate dignity and respect for our most vulnerable populations in our county, which I think as a county, we have a responsibility for serving. So I think what we're asking for is to this bridge or in time in terms of enforcement until we can get this safe park program up and running, get the provider in place, and then when it comes to questions of enforcement, we're not just saying you have to leave this place, but you have to leave this place, but there's a place that you can park legally, lawfully, and you won't have your RVs impounded or you won't be cited. And I think that's the compassionate approach I want to take. But in the meantime, during this interim situation, there's those questions of waste. I don't know if an interim plan would include receptacles for trash nearby or portable restrooms nearby, at least to address those other questions that the need's still going to be there for those. But in this interim plan, what we're saying they can park there legally, would we at least be looking to extend those types of services so that we kind of address or mitigate those concerns from citizens or other elected officials?
That's not part of the current proposal. Again, the proposal would have an expectation of no dumping and no littering. So individual vehicle residents would have to have a plan for containing whatever waste they have and disposing of it in a safe place to dispose of the waste. Part of the cleanup side is that's one reason why we do want the road to be cleared during the daytime so that cleanup activity would take place. And just one other thing, I forgot to mention that we do put a time limit on this, that it be operational from 90 days from adoption or opening of the safe parking program, whichever is early.
And there was another question raised by citizens, just they were distinguishing between those who are just vacationers wanting to park along that street versus homeless residents, because I think you were looking at whether, if this were allowed, people have to enroll in the, I forgot what the database is called.
The CARS program.
Yeah, to be able to be part of that network of social services or county services that may be available for homeless residents. So how does this at least address those concerns where you might have just out-of-area vacationers who are just who might just be parking there versus those who are in a homeless situation?
I think, part of it is it's very, it could be hard to distinguish, between the two. If a vacationer says, yes, I want to register for cars, yes, I want to sign this agreement, etc. You'd have to have an equal enforcement. But when you put into place the parts of the program that do include, you will register for cars, you will agree to participate in the safe parking program when it's open, and you will agree to no dumping, and you will agree to provide your contact information, and you will agree to not be located there between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. It puts some natural filter on overutilization.
And then Supervisor Parker, I thought I might ask my questions first, and then you can finish with
Sure.
yours.
I don't have any questions. I have comments, but I will make them after we hear from the public.
Okay, thank you. So I did have just a couple of questions, and one was just, can you give me an idea of what the capacity will be for the County Safe Parking Program, this one on Lapis Road?
Honestly, I wouldn't expect it to draw a greater crowd than is there already, but now I can't get that quick number on it.
Okay. And then I hope I don't have my numbers wrong here, but I was just wondering where the money will come to implement this. If there's, I think it's $74,000, is that the right number, or was it $300?
For this program, this permission program.
Yes, for the permission program.
That I expect to be a small enough cost that I would look internally to absorb it.
Okay.
We've had quotes between 10,000 and 15,000, but we'll work to absorb that.
Okay, very good for that. And then, do you really think that the broader County Safe Parking Program is going to be ready by November 30th?
I'll try.
Okay, that sounds good to me. And then, will putting this interim program forward as you've described it, will this take a little pressure off the sheriff's office as far as having to go into enforcement?
It's Jeff there. I'm Sheriff here. I won't guess at their answer.
Thank you, Chair. It's hard to predict. It's going to really a lot, as you know, a lot of our work is based upon calls or complaints we get from the public. So it really depends on if once the rules roll out, if people adhere and they're not out there, then that'll be great. If they're not and we're getting calls and complaints from the public, then it'll be the reverse.
Super. So really what you're saying is it's going to be up to the residents of Lapis Road to ensure that it takes the pressure off the Sheriff's Department.
Yes.
Excellent. Good. Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to the public for comment. And I have a number of speaker slips, and I'll give them to you, the names in order, and then others can come comment. So first it's Eric Peterson.
Yeah, no, put them in the left.
And then Mike Owen. Then Nancy Amadeo, Charlene, and Patrick. So just again, we'll start with Eric and then Mike.
Good morning. Some years back, I had the necessity of living in my car for about 12 months. I had the advantage of having private property owners who allowed me to park on their land, and I had showers and restroom facilities most of the time. What I had was positively luxurious compared to what's going on Lapis Road and many other locations. Last night at Supervisor Parker's meeting, I mentioned a friend of mine, his son was mentally ill. He started showing signs of being mentally ill at 17. 21 years later, the entire mental health help he has had has been when Seaside Police took him to Natividad Hospital for 72 hours psychiatric hold. 21 years, and that's it. He's living on the streets. His mother found out he's got a warrant for his arrest, and this is one situation where the mother is actually hoping her son gets arrested because she thinks he'll be better off in jail than on the streets. We don't treat our homeless very well. The mentally ill and the other. We've got some homeless people who are pretty sharp. We really need to start taking a lot of this a lot more seriously. At the meeting last night, there were several times when the excuse, need more time was used. If Dwight Eisenhower had used that excuse, they'd still be speaking German and French in France. It's not that difficult to actually get going and do something. We've got other locations, we've got parks that are available, Eucalyptus Park, Royal Oaks Park. Maybe we could put them in Rancho Cielo. That'd be a good location. Plenty of rent land there. This does remind me of March last year where Mr. Phillips suggested sending homeless veterans to Chinatown, thus making two serious problems worse. We really need to start taking our homeless people seriously. Some places too. Salt Lake City has reduced their homeless population from 3,000 to 400. How? First, they started taking it seriously. They wanted to fix the problem. Then they started housing people. And they housing first, then deal with the problems, whatever they are, be they substance abuse. My friend's son was mentally ill before he was a substance abuser. He knows he can't deal with people because of the mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia. So he self-medicates. We've got others like that. And it's not going to be that difficult to deal with once we decide to deal with it. And finding a better location, sure, but we need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll have Mike Bowen.
Have been really impressed with the efforts by the county environmental health services, public works, sheriffs, social services, all in the past month, focused on Lapis Road. I appreciate the opportunity that you are taking upon yourselves to also maybe produce a little bit of extra help as far as that condition goes out there regarding your vote on this issue. 3 weeks ago, Bruce Delgado accepted my invitation to come over to my house with his wife Natalie, and we drove out to Lapis Road for me to give him a tour of the people out there, and it was sort of like summarized by the good, the bad, and the ugly. Bruce was at the meeting last night. I sent you an email. I don't know how you have time to read all this stuff on such short notice, but maybe you did. He responded to my email, and my impression from Bruce is that he fully supports, this item. Just to give you my impression, there was one speaker that talked previously about the homeless, and I just do not like that generic category about, this is how the homeless are all treated, or they don't deserve this. I also don't like the category that a public-spirited, small-minded, mean-spirited miscreant illegally posted this sign at the entrance to Lapis Road a year ago, which I took down. And I have to admit that there's one location on Lapis Road which I would find really difficult to object to this being posted. I have gone over to the sheriff's office and complained about an abandoned someone, because I had the license plate number, it was from Oregon for some reason, where they abandoned a camper and it was being disemboweled and just a big hazard and environmental mess, like over a year ago. I've had Sheriff's Deputy Ramos come out because of a complaint that I issued against Susan, with whom I got into a violent, obscenity, heated argument about her leaving trash. So I feel like I have a full range of experiences with the people out there. And the great majority, this has always been frustrating for a long time, because I've asked the sheriff and they said, well, you know, like we can't selectively enforce. I mean, right now it's like a hammer. It's like throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's been the approach up to now. And now it's a little bit different because you have this ability to actually be discreet and do things and not punish the good, but get rid of the bad and the ugly.
Thank you so much for your remarks. And I agree with you that until we put a face on each person, we're not going to be able to make any changes. Now we have Nancy Amadeo, and my apologies to you for not inviting an elected official up to speak first.
I really don't need special privileges. I'm willing to stand in line. Lapis Road's just the tip of the iceberg. Homelessness is a very serious issue, not just in Monterey County, not just on the peninsula, not just Lapis Road. It's a serious issue throughout California. And a lot of it, of course, has to do with the incredibly high cost of housing. I just got notification from the league that there is going to be a couple of bond measures on the ballot in next November, November 18, that if passed will create about $4 billion for affordable housing. So a little light at the end of the tunnel, although I think the tunnel's longer than that light. When I went to the meeting last night, I stayed awake quite late afterwards thinking about this problem. We treat homeless people as a criminal element. Homeless people are homeless for a lot of different reasons. And yes, some of them do belong to that criminal element, but so do some of the people who live in my neighborhood. So they're no different. It is a neighborhood of people who have banded together to support one another. We need to not just support them by approving this 90-day, I'm going to call it a stay, because that's what it is on the final solution. But we need to go beyond the safe parking program. Safe parking, again, still isolates people and makes a demand for them to accept certain services. In looking at the homeless survey, only about 25% of the homeless are mentally ill or have substance abuse problems. They're homeless for a variety of reasons. And we need to address all of those reasons in order to deal with the problem. Some just need a permanent address that they can then use in order to get a job. That's all they need, a permanent address. But they live on Lapis Road, that's not permanent. They live in their RVs or in their vehicles. That's not considered permanent housing, so no opportunity for a job. Oh, by the way, they can't move into permanent housing because they have no job. We need to deal with those situations, and I think the county has an opportunity. I'm going to tail in on what Mayor Delgado said, to create places. I'm going to call them urban campgrounds. An urban campground could have P.O. boxes. You live on XYZ Road, it's an urban campground, you have a mailbox. You can receive your mail there. That gives people the opportunity to say, this is where I live, now I can have a job. And that job gives them the opportunity to move on. So urban campground to me is part of the solution. It's not a parking place, it's a home.
Thank you. Thanks for your remarks. The next speaker that we have is Charlene, followed by Patrick, followed by Jay Reed. Is Charlene here? Yes, there you are.
I wanted to comment about the 6 to 10 parking. I just got out of the hospital yesterday out of an 11-day stay. I didn't qualify for another 2 weeks in a place I could recover. And getting up at 10 in the morning is hard for people that are ill, that are veterans, that are disabled. Most of these people out there have these problems. The ones that are on substance abuse, they don't come to the meetings, they're not cleaning up their area. The ones that are We're just like the forgotten people. You know, if you want to get in a program, you have to get rid of your dog, which is like a child. They euthanize them so you can go stay in their little place. That's not right. In our Declaration of Independence, there's a right for 8 hours of sleep, food for everyone, but we don't do that anymore. They look at us like, oh, out of sight, out of mind. That's not right. I've got so much to say and I don't have time to do it, but our vets fought for us. Your freedom just as well as mine. And I think I deserve the right to live, just like anyone else. And everybody can get their heads together on this. Just because we're homeless, that's all they have left. They have lost all their dignity, whatever little they have left. They're just normal people reduced to nothing. While other people, oh, they don't have money, they don't deserve. That's just people with their heads somewhere that they don't see the sunshine. And I could say more, but I will let my son speak.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your comments, Charlene. And now we have Patrick.
First of all, I want to say thank you for listening to us and allowing us to even be here and everything. But I want to shine light on, you guys had talked earlier about the jail program and the mental health issues going on in there. These are people that are in there that do this and are in there on their choice. And you guys have programs for them, and you guys hold things for them that, you know, so they have resources inside of jail. And a lot of the people out here are put in the position that we're in under our own will. Like, for instance, for myself, I worked for a gentleman that I also rented a house from, and I got hurt working for him, and he lied about my workman's comp. I had to work for like 2 or 3 extra months before I realized he lied and found out all the laws, and I got a lawyer, and we were fighting it, but then he kicked me out of the home. And I didn't have any income, obviously. I wasn't working, I'm hurt, can't work, and now I'm out of my home. I have a son, I've worked and lived here. I was born and lived at a hospital, and I've lived here my whole life. And I've always worked since I was 15 years old. I'm a very hard worker. I've got good work ethic. And I just think that you guys can come together and find something for the people that are having this happen to them under their own will in a lot of cases, because everyone has a different deal. But then you guys have criminals out there that go and make these choices on their own. And they put them in a place that we take our tax dollars and pay for facilities and mental health stuff and things like that. But it shouldn't be an issue of, oh, do we get permission to go stay out on these places? But you guys go through rigorous paperwork and councilman meetings and all these things to pass stuff for those prisoners that make those choices on their own. And so I just think and urge that you guys can push the needle, so to speak, on these issues with the homeless. And I don't just mean Lapis Road, I mean, like she said, the real integrated root problems with the homeless stuff. And really put your heads together, and maybe not individual counties, but other counties can come together and solve all the problems with each other. You know, have a central facility that you guys can put your money and your heads together and say, let's do this. Let's have a 3-story building where we can help people. And, you know, you guys can do it for the prisoners, and you guys are great at it. I know people that's been in there that you know, benefited from all that stuff, and they came out and changed their lives. And so if you can give them a chance that go out and make those choices on their own, you can give us a chance that, you know, this stuff happens to us without our will sometimes. I'm a good example. But I thank you, and my name is Patrick Tanner.
Thank you very much. It does seem a little upside down, doesn't it?
Yes, it
Next we'll have Jay Reed, and then Florence Cutner.
Can't touch.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the board. Thank you guys for listening. I also want to thank the Environmental Department for allowing us 2 vouchers for taking garbage to the dump. We've been doing that for about a week now. I borrowed my son's trailer, and we pretty much cleaned up just about everything. Hindsight, I decided that if we were going to be allowed to stay there, then we should have tighter security. And I was talking to a few people, and I've got cameras donated. And Lapis Road is set up kind of like a horseshoe this way. We would have people volunteer to have cameras on each side as people were coming in. If we can catch the illegal dumpers, because I've seen, you know, trucks that food trucks that come in just pour the oil out, you know,
and we get these people on camera, we can actually get the people who are doing this. We don't, the homeless are not, you know, all criminals. I mean, I've never had a parking ticket. So, you know, I have business here for 15 years, I've raised 2 kids. And, you know, this situation happens. And it's you know, it's not anything that's, I mean, I really love the urban campground. I think that's a great idea. I think if you allow the homeless to, you know, govern themselves in their area, keep them in a safe place, then they will be able to rejuvenate. And then, which makes a lot more sense, is if we, you know, like have online room where they can go online for school again. They have a place to be. They always have food. And once they get back into working society or whatever, we reintegrate them back in, and that gives us revenues to put back in. So instead of wasting revenues by coming in every month, kicking everybody out, we have a place to be. We can govern ourselves. We feel safe, and then get back into society. That's what we're trying to do anyways. This would alleviate a lot of the costs, and a lot of the wasted costs that the community has to put in and taxpayers have to put in. We want to stop that. We want to start getting money back. And the best way to do that is to have a place to do it, and let us govern ourselves. We set a lot of different programs within that community, and it would alleviate so much of the amount of money that's being spent right now just pushing everybody around. And this has been going on for years. I mean, that's a lot of money. So if we can stop that and start getting money back, it's a really good idea. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Great.
Oh,
Thanks very much.
thank you.
Next we have Florence, and after Florence we have Amber Beaver. Did a great job on the news last night. Thank you. I wanted to just point out a couple of things instead of dwelling on my situation. Trying to get into most of these RV camp sites. I have a 1980 RV, so that you know, if your RV is too old, you can't park in these places. When I first bought the RV so that I could keep under the radar, but this individual is going to cause me harm. My idea was to be able to, you know, pay a monthly RV campsite, you know, rent out a space. Start making calls, and they're like, oh no, it's too old, too long, and it's got to be simple. You know, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, I took every bit of the money I ever had to, and I had, you know, no choice but to settle on a 1988 on my budget, you know. I had to teach myself how to drive this 31-foot. I did it. So, you know, that was a very disappointing thing. I went and stayed at Walmart, got run out of Walmart. I stayed at Lucky's for 2 nights. A friend of mine drove me down Lapis, and he says, hey, you know, you can stay here, you know. And, you know, at first I was, you know, when I first saw the top of Lapis, I was like, oh my God, you know. Like everybody, you know, in the city, I was like, oh my God, you know, why is all this a mess and everything, you know? And so he drove me all the way down to the end, and I picked up a nice little clean spot by myself, and stayed there for a couple of weeks. I'm one of those people that never believe in littering. You know, I had a little Ziploc bag. I put my cigarette butt so it doesn't stink up, you know, my little RV, but I'm not dumping it out there. And then all of a sudden I started meeting other people that think the same way as me. And, you know, we start talking about how this might make us look a little bad, but we gotta fight harder. And the ones of us that care about surrounding and everything, we are now fighting harder. So that, you know, those that are not making us look so good, maybe they can take an example from us. Maybe they could do as we do. I am grateful that I got to know this little community that I'm in a group of. They've been helping me be more brave. Because it's been hard for me to go shopping in public. I'm always looking over my shoulder.
Another thing about the overnight thing, just staying overnight. I take medication, especially since what happened. I don't know if this is working here. But these are my medication. I can't be driving around town all day while I'm on this medication, finding a parking place and then getting run off, you know. And I also have asthma, and a lot of people have asthma, and we can't be moving our asthma machine all the time that we have to up and move.
Thank you. Thanks very much for coming up and telling us your story, and thanks for your efforts to keep things clean. Thanks very much. And next we have Lawrence. Sorry, that was Lawrence. Next we have Amber, and then Becky, and then we'll finish it with Wes.
Can't really see it too well. Hi, my name's Amber. I've been in Monterey County for about 17 years now. I was in North County, Hartnell, Transfer, CSOD, built a family business, and been an employer for about 6 years. My family underwent a tragedy. It put a lot of strain in my 14-year relationship. Economic fears, being used against me in my healing process and stuff, and I wasn't sure what had happened. And Lapis was a great opportunity to go out there, and I went out there and met all these people. We had come up with, I figured I have the education for this, and I know how to do it, and I would like to be one of the people to actually be self-organize this place. We've come up with security cameras, we've come up with dump teams, we've come up with laundry, ride shares for those out there. When I listened to the board meeting last night about how much effort and all this, I've been out there for 3 weeks, and we've come up with a solution to every single problem that's been out there. But by the end of today, we should have every single piece of garbage gone from there, including from the people who have verified by campaigns and the ones who are acting irresponsible. We have a final draft that we're working on for rules and regulations when it comes to the oil spilling, mandated oil pans, or whether you're leaking or not. I would like the county to, before, I'm thinking about the safe parking program, and I'm thinking we already have a place that's safe for that. Why not let us use our resources? We're getting sponsors, we're getting Adopt a Road, we're getting funding the account. We have half the RVs out there to have the capability to work all day to do the fun, so we can get our own porta potties, so we can get our own bicycles for the patrol. I think this is it hasn't been pushed before, and everybody's kind of in those sections. And now we've bonded together, we've grouped together, and we're willing to fight, and we can do it, and we're not going to be a burden on you guys. I have the option to drive off and go somewhere else, but having the 6 a.m. to the having to move out and stuff, half those trailers are going to get rid of, half of their homes are going to be intense. I did sign up for what they said about calling in and signing yourself up for the program. They said, oh, please fill the information, but we don't have something right now. When you can. For me, that's okay, because I have my trailer, and I can go somewhere, I can have family members, but other people, they don't. And once, the oil is going to be going into the city, we're going to have broken down RVs in the city. The fact of them having to move during the day, I'm wondering what the pros are. There's not one pro. So why is that on the initiative? Only for it to look good for the public, from a public perspective. And the public perspective needs to change. I'm going through a custody battle with my husband, and because of the public perspective on Lapis and accusations of drugs and stuff, now I had an emergency detainer, and my kids are for 4 weeks being detained until my court day and a half. I don't have a drug history. I don't have a criminal history. I'm employed. This is a situation that happens to me, and I see all these people out there, and nobody cares. If I can do it under this stress, then you guys can do it.
Thank you.
I made that right decision.
Thanks very much for your comments. And then we have one other speaker, and then is there anyone else? So we have 1, 2, and 3 people. All right, here we go. Thank you.
Hi, Becky Johnson again, with the Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union.
the county has proposed here is to displace this community, which is probably about 30-plus households at this point in time. The displacement is to nowhere. You don't have a safe parking program operating. You don't have a location set up where these people can go to. It's sort of cart before the horse. So I am wondering, what is this immediacy that everybody has to be out by August 31st? What great harm is going to befall the citizens of Monterey County if these 30-some households are not displaced at the end of August 31st? What is the issue here? Now, when I'm looking at some of your packets and proposals and the what is the impetus for this, I see that you have the 602, which is a trespassing ordinance. So what, you just decided to create a public space as non-trespassing so that people can't trespass on public property? That's kind of a weird concept, don't you think? Isn't public property belong to the public for the use of the public? But suddenly you decided, no, we can't have these people here in these RVs on this public property. This cannot be tolerated. So what are you going to use? You're going to use the lodging ordinance against these people. That's a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor means jury trials, it means public defenders. It also means it's an arrestable crime. You're going to go in and arrest people who cannot leave Lapis Road or won't leave Lapis Road, which is public property, and you're going to arrest them and put them in jail for the crime of lodging. Do you even know what lodging means? I tell you, you don't, because the ordinance that you're citing does not define lodging. Lodging, and it says that you can't lodge in a public or private space. What's left? That's the entire state of California is either public or private space. So you're going to have this big ordinance that says something we call lodging is illegal. And who's going to decide it's lodging? A cop?
Thank you. Thanks for your remarks.
I support the motion because it's the only motion we've got, but I really wonder about this 10 to 6:30 window when people can't be. It seems illogical.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Anthony Lombardo. I represent the tenant farmer from the Armstrong Ranch, and I commend Supervisor Parker for working on an interim solution to what is obviously a much larger problem than Lapis Road. However, this location is problematic, certainly on a long-term basis, because of its proximity to the agricultural operations that are going on next door. In modern agricultural activities, there are food safety regulations and insurance companies that make demands on farmers in terms of how they farm and where they farm. And this activity continuing on a long-term basis here would necessitate buffer zones being established because, as we know, there are no sanitation facilities available here, and that would create a problem for the farmers farming nearby. In addition, this is in the middle of an agricultural area, and people who could be exposed to agricultural chemicals or believe they're exposed to agricultural chemicals can also file complaints with state agencies and create other issues for farming activities. So hopefully a solution can be found. You heard mention of the safe parking ordinance. That can take place between now and November, because there's obviously several legal and CEQA issues involved in allowing this to go on long-term, which would have to be addressed. In the interim, my client hopes the county can find a spot so that it can address this in a positive manner rather than dealing with the issues involving the food safety department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Enid.
Madam Chair and Supervisors, my name is Sherwood Harrington. I'm the Managing Director of the Ag Land Trust. The Ag Land Trust owns property on Lapis Road. In fact, all of the vehicles that are parked there are on our side of the road. Over half of those vehicles front on our property. And we have to go through those vehicles for our only legal access to access our property. And the county, by giving a temporary time, which if you look at some of the corridors or temporary hearings are there 60 years later. So one of the questions I have, what happens after the temporary time, terminates? Does that mean a new temporary time and then another temporary time? Or at what time will those vehicles then be placed someplace where it's a little safer for them to be and safer for our vegetable producing farm? Because we're concerned about possible food safety problems due to trespassing and things of that nature. So at a minimum, that the county should be providing, sanitary facilities for those people, and also a fence along the county property that would prevent anybody from trespassing off of the county property. But anyway, I understand that most of those people have a personal problem, and we're not here to judge those people or lessen any of their personal problem. We're just here to protect the vegetable producing farmland that is adjacent to that operation that the county is allowing. And by endorsing an ordinance like you're proposing here, that's a possible violation to the Food Safety Act, and it's possible that puts you in a financial responsibility if something happens on the adjacent farmland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. And I think we have Wes White, and that will be our final speaker. And then we'll bring it back to staff member.
Hi, Wes White, Sunny's resident, president of Monterey County Homes Union. Also been helping out this RV association. Call themselves RV homeowners, but they own their RVs and maybe not the land underneath it, and that's one of the reasons we're here. You mentioned a little bit about, the wish of face when everybody's down there. Well, I've kind of been going at that a little bit, and I've gotten over 45 people, kind of spreadsheet a little bit, and at least their name and contact information. I got 27 people to actually fill out the VIA ADDENDA, just about everybody. I'm hoping, at least I've gotten a lot of response as far as officially signing up for cars. So that's one of the requirements already. As part of this association, we did a couple of meetings over the weekends, and it really jump-started. It's kind of nice having a captive audience because they're really under the gun. And as soon as that first orange sticker went on, more than half of the people left that were causing the issues that we seem to be worried about with a mess. Even the word mess, clean up, I mean, those are very subjective terms. What we're doing is we want to empty it out, but are we really taking care of people? And that's kind of why I want to, the 6 to 6 thing, we were talking about that for a while. And how can you have somebody like do a turtle shell on the back, and actually that actually makes them a little bit more of a target. We're a tool-based society, we need things, and there's just no way around it. We need shelter, food, clothing. And that actually, the RV is a lot safer than a tent, than a shelter, than just walking around. What I need to see is a different motion. I need to see this not implemented Wednesday at 8 a.m. or Thursday at 8 a.m., not 10 to 6, but 24 hours a day. Because otherwise, we're not helping people. We're making them hobble. Instead of shooting in the heart, we're shooting in the leg. And what do you think is without a tourniquet, without anything else, we're actually going to be exacerbating other county resources because of it. We need to be able to have this be a 24-hour safe parking program. I know I'm not legit or whatever, paperwork-wise, but dude, look at how much has been happening just in the last couple of weeks. They're taking pride in their area. They're being very concerned. We register everybody, whoever's there. Let's not let anybody else be there. Just only that set and that alone, and make this our challenge to the county of actually housing people instead of just pushing their lines. It's your problem this time. What are you going to do with it? What are you doing with this hot potato? Put on some mitts. Put on some kid gloves. Take care of these people, and let's use solutions rather than just say, it'll be somebody else's problem. Make it 24 hours a day. Let them stay there. Put them in the housing. Don't let anybody else be there.
Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Ellis is still in the audience. We'll bring it back to staff comment and then back to the board.
Okay, just, if you have further questions, and we are excited at the opportunity, if your board authorizes the resolution, to get it going very quickly.
Good. Additional questions? Additional questions?
Chair, if I could speak.
Yes.
I do have a couple comments, and since this is in my district, I just want to say a couple things at the outset, thanking Mr. Robinson and your team for bringing something forward that might be able to work as an interim solution. And I want to thank people who came here today, as well as were at, some of whom were at the community meeting last night. Everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. And one of the things we know from the homeless survey is that the people who are parking on Lapis Road, I think, were surveyed as part of the homeless survey. And what the census tells us is that the vast majority of homeless people, about 83%, were living in Monterey County before they became homeless. And in fact, 76% were living here for more than 5 years. So these are our neighbors. So it's been about a year since I first convened a team of county departments to talk about and work on a response to the growing number of people who are parking in vehicles that were parked along Lapis Road. To say that I'm disappointed that in the ability of the county to develop and execute a coordinated plan in a timely manner is an understatement, as the staff will tell you who got to hear from me last week. But we can talk all day about what has or hasn't happened over the last year or so, but what I really want to focus on is what we can do right now and what happens next. We finally have a qualified respondent to our RFQ, our request for qualifications for the safe parking program, and I understand that staff is going to be bringing a contract and funding proposal to our board as soon as possible. I'm just going to say shortly, because I hope that can happen fairly soon. In the meantime, the Sheriff's Office has issued individuals out along Lapis Road a notice to vacate by August 31st. That's this week. So this proposal that's before us today will essentially bridge the gap, the time gap between the deadline that has been issued by the Sheriff's Office and the opening of a safe parking program. It's not ideal. None of this is ideal for anyone. But not taking advantage of this resolution today continues to push the issue into other parts of the county, into other communities, also unprepared to deal with the complexities of homelessness. And I refuse to be part of that kind of behavior. So I understand there are concerns about sanitation. I share those concerns, and I would welcome an amendment to this proposal that hosts a temporary parking location at a county-owned property that has public restrooms. There is no such property in District 4. If my colleagues are open to including toilets, portable toilets and trash collection as part of this resolution, I'm happy to support that. Currently, there's nothing in the resolution that explicitly does that. And then, as we've heard, this proposal does not commit any additional county funds for this interim, whatever it is, resolution. It gives, but this resolution gives otherwise law-abiding residents of our county a safe place to sleep at night. And I would hope that we, during this time, if we are able to pass this resolution today, that outreach will continue and that it be comprehensive. I've been concerned that it hasn't been as thoughtful and personalized and creative and energetic as it could have been. But we really need to continue to do our best and even better to support these folks as they try to live safely and get themselves on their feet. So with that, I would move approval of the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the board?
Yes. As it stands now, I don't support the motion. I've been out there. I've seen the situation. Some of it, some of the people take care of the property there. Some don't. It's a real mess, and it's a health hazard. And it was brought up here. It can be a food safety issue. And I don't think this is the proper place for such, just because people started going there, I don't think it's a proper place for such a campsite. And I can't believe that the county has had this much time and they haven't come up with a better solution. The county doesn't move very quickly. But you can't tell me that there isn't some place for an interim solution that we can't say this is, I don't care if it's a parking lot, I don't care if it's a field that has access to it, but this isn't the right place. And surely if we were directed the county to find some place where these people can safely park while we work on finding a location, because number one, this isn't going to work the way we have it couched. It's impractical, and law enforcement's going to be a pain in the fanny for law enforcement trying to enforce anything. So I think you can find some place, whether it's a parking lot, a field, or part of a park, when you say, because you're going to have to clean up Lapis Road anyway and move those people out that can't be in and out on the daily driving. And you put 6 porta potties there, you put a dumpster there, and you provide some water there and have people sign a waiver when they come in. But you can't tell me that you can't find some place in the county where you can do that that's much more appropriate and able to provide the sanitation that we're not having out in Lapis Road. So I won't support this because as we have it, I would direct the county to go and find a place for us.
Thank you for your remarks, and my personal feeling is that this is not a perfect fix. It's a temporary fix. And it's temporary for 30 days, for it looks like 90 days, the months of September, October, and November. It ends November 30th. But as sad as it is that we move so slowly, at least we have 30 days, 3 months rather, for these people to stay where they are while we look to find a place where we can have the porta potties, we can have the dumpsters, and we can have the water that is needed to make this a more humane situation. I agree that it is not a perfect place at all, but I feel that the only humane way to approach this is to move forward with this resolution. So we have a first and a second on the floor, so let's just take the vote. All in favor?
I have a couple of comments.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I do want to thank our Director Robinson and all the staff that have been doing this work. And I also want to thank Council Member Amadeo and Mayor Bruce Delgado, because I think in this county we need more champions as elected officials. I don't think there's enough of us to try to find temporary, long-term solutions to a growing crisis that's not unique to Monterey County. I think it's easy to say no. It's harder to find temporary solutions that at least get us to a place where we could try these new programs, new approaches, and sometimes I recognize that they're not perfect, but for a long time in our county, we hadn't seen very much action. Now we see there's a growing interest and growing concern from the community that we got to do better than the status quo. And so that's why I think it's really important. I think it's important for the residents that are living there to express their commitment to keep the place clean, to help pick up the trash, to the self-governance, to keep it safe. And I think we heard that a commitment. I know it's not all 100%, but certainly those that are committed to that shouldn't be punished where they're making those proactive efforts to keep the place as safe and clean as possible. I would be supportive, at least since this is a temporary program for 90 days or less, to even add putting some portable restrooms, because I mean we're all human, you know, these are basic everyday needs that at least maybe in the interim to address some of the concerns that were expressed, to include having a few portable toilets on each side and a trash receptacle, a central place where it can be picked up every week. The portable toilets get cleaned out every week. And at least there's that, those basic fundamental services that are going to be needed for any group of human beings are residing, even if it's temporarily. The last thing I just wanted to put was also saying that I was glad that yesterday the state legislature, the governor, agreed. They're going to be voting on still, but nonetheless, a $4 billion housing bond, that's part of the solution. The $2 billion No Place Like Home that was approved last year for additional services for the homeless and I think we're going to be able to access some more money for this come 2018. That's part of the solution. There's ongoing efforts to try to expedite CEQA so that we could build more affordable housing faster and not have it be so burdensome to do that. Supervisor Parker is also committed to continue working to try to find a year-round shelter in the peninsula. That was part of our original motion here. So it's not just this, as we're looking at different strategies of what we could be doing to address homelessness in Monterey County, and more importantly, in the long term, investing in places where we could move people out of RVs and out of living in encampments in the streets to transitional and permanent housing. That's a different commitment. That's more costly. That's going to take longer. But we have to see that long-term solution as part of the work that we're doing. And lastly, I know the city of Salinas. I mean, this is a place. You look at the projected growth for Salinas on the other side of Veranda in Supervisor Phillips' district. There's projected 1,500 units will be built on that side of Salinas. So you talk about an area that's going to be trying to address affordable housing and just housing needs overall in the Monterey Bay region. Certainly Salinas is going to be an important part of that, but also it should be other communities trying to address the housing needs for their local residents as well. So with that, I just wanted to end by saying I would like to add a friendly amendment just that we could add the portable toilets and the trash receptacles. I think that would just address some of the concerns coming from the community. I think that we all understand they're going to be needed out there as well, and it's just going to help the place be cleaner and run more smoothly.
I'm happy to accept that.
Then all of a sudden we're into a position now where there's a cost that's going to be attendant on this, which I think I would have to look to you to see whether you're going to be able to absorb now the costs of the porta potties and the dumpsters.
I would say, Madam Chair, maybe it can be in the form of some direction to work with the community out there. I think I heard some of the members say that they'd be willing to help contribute to the cost and help get donations and raise some money. So I think that there may be some costs associated with this, but they may not be costs solely for the county to bear. So I'm not sure how that can be.
Dr. Penal.
If I may suggest, if you direct staff to work, we'll work with social services in the community. I think the bigger concern is managing these assets. If you put a dumpster in a public location, it could be an attractive nuisance. So if we can work with the homeless community to make sure it's appropriately managed, and the same for toilet facilities to ensure that it doesn't incur undue liability and danger. So we'll go ahead and work with that, and I think it would be a minor budget issue, so we can go ahead and the Supervisor Parker suggested work with the community and try to address these issues.
And also, sorry, through the chair, if I could just say, one of the issues that came up last night, one of the conditions of people participating is that they not dump illegally, but also that they report illegal dumping. So I think the community was interested in, what's the phone, what's the contact, what's the phone number, which was given out last night, so that if they see people coming to vandalize or to do illegal dumping, they can be part of the eyes and ears to help us make sure that, people who are taking advantage of the situation don't end up causing more problems for the folks out there than they already have.
Excellent. So, are you comfortable?
Yeah, I just also wanted to kind of note Supervisor Phillips' comment about continuing to look for appropriate places and, just commit to working with the Resource Management Agency to see if they can identify other, continue the process of locating other locations.
Okay, great. So I really want to just applaud Supervisor Parker. This is a problem that has manifested itself at this point in your district. To stand up to the plate as you did, the form you did last night, you looked at the problem that is simply showing up, and it's like whack-a-mole. It's showing up in your issue at this moment. And I thank you so much for just really, not just hammering something down, but bringing it forward and really addressing it. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So we have a motion, second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you very much. The motion carries.